for listening to Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast, keeping you up to date with the latest in American soccer. And don't forget to subscribe.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Uncle Sam's Soccer Podcast. I'm Jake Watroba, and joining me today is Armand Kafai and our special guest, Joseph Lowery of The Athletic. On today's episode of the show, it's part 2 of our recap of the weekend that was MLS. If you haven't already, please go back and listen to part 1 as we discuss where does DC United go following the news of Wayne Rooney's departure for Derby County at the end of the season. You can follow the show on Twitter at UncSamSoccerPod. Please make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. And as always, you can find the show on any major podcast platform. Now, let's get to today's show. Let's talk a little LA Galaxy. Let's talk a little Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Zlatan's been in the headlines a lot the last couple of weeks, and most recently, he's been in the headlines for slamming MLS's playoff system. This is from Zlatan. When you talk about the playoff, you just need to make the playoff, win the playoff, and that's it. It doesn't matter if you lose or win. How can you learn strong mentality if you just need to reach the playoffs? I think this system is expletive, but that's the way it is. Because you talk about mentality. For me, mentality is every day. The way you train is the way you play game. The results in every game is important, but here you come in 7th, you make the playoffs, you win. How do you create that mentality to be on your toes 24 hours? It's very difficult. Now, guys, Armand, let's start with you here. The playoffs are inherently American. But does Zlatan have a point here?
It's difficult to say, no, if Zlatan has a point that way. All you hear him do, and I think this is going to be our next talking point, is he just complains. He just complains about this, complains about that. Yeah, look at me, like the playoffs suck, whatever. You know what? There is a difference. You do have to be your tools, and we kind of saw that this weekend in MLS, where now with the new playoff format, playoffs are like seeding's important now. You can't rely on 2 games to get you through. You got to win your games, and then you have that home playoff game, and you want that home field. You don't want to be going to Portland. You don't want to be going to Seattle. You don't want to be – hell, you don't want to be going to Dallas where it's, I guess, kind of hot sometimes. Like, overall, you don't want to go on the road. And I just – look, you don't need to just reach the playoff. There's obviously been a little bit of pressure. I mean, now, is it more than a relegation? Of course not. And I think – I've emphasized that plenty of times, but there is some sort of pressure. I mean, if he has an issue with the system, he's issued a system. But as Lexi Law said, make the playoffs and go through the gauntlet, and then let us know how it is. You can't say if you haven't made the playoffs. Sorry, Zlatan, make the playoffs.
I mean, I agree with a lot of what you said there, Armand. I think it's fun, it's irritating to hear Zlatan sort of his whole shtick over and over again, but at the same time, I kind of do think he has a point. I'm not by any means advocating for getting rid of the playoff system altogether, because I do think, like Jake said, it is an American thing, and I enjoy sort of the spectacle of it all. But having 7 teams from each conference make the playoffs, that's a big number. I mean, we're going to see some pretty mediocre teams make the playoffs this season. So in that sense, I completely agree that with Zlatan's sort of premise here. But on the other hand, it's frustrating to continue to hear this over and over again. So, Zlatan, if you want to come up with some sort of plan for how you would structure the playoffs, I think you can go for it. My idea, just have the top 4 from each conference make the playoffs. It's not rocket science here. I get that MLS wants to have more games, and that means more revenue and all that. But I think having top 4 from each conference make the playoffs allows for some element of randomness, some fun upsets in the playoffs, but also gets most of, and hopefully almost exclusively, the quality teams in the playoffs that provide some really entertaining soccer.
Well, and I agree with you, Joseph. I think having 4 teams from each conference making the playoffs. If you're a fan of the two-legged, playoff system or two-legged format from the old system, you could do that with 4 teams because you wouldn't have as many games to go through. And I just think that would just make it more compelling. And moving on here, it sounds like you both are pretty sick of this shtick, if you will, from Zlatan about how crappy MLS is, or how much he doesn't like, or how much he thinks he's better than Carlos Vela, or whatever he's talking about off the field. So I guess I'll ask you guys this: are his antics good for MLS? Is this good that he's keeping the league in the headlines with some of the things he's saying?
No, it's good. It's good to a degree, right? Like that whole Vela thing that he manufactured, that was fun. I don't know about you guys, but it was fun. And it provided a little bit of a storyline going into El Tráfico. And, it was fun. It was fun. But this is just useless, And then you watch him how he played against DC. He was like, he wasn't good. He wasn't good. And Zlatan needs to step it up. His team is not good right now. They're floundering. And he needs to step up and score some goals. And often I've seen this, and I didn't agree with it at first, but now I see it. He is disinterested, it looks like sometimes. He does get frustrated easily that, I'm not getting like the most delicious balls. You signed up for this, man. It's not like anyone forced you to join MLS. You signed up for this. Like, this is the league you're going to be in. And you know what? Is it good for the league? Yeah, sure. But, like, you watch him get disinterested, this or that, it kind of turns you off from the play. And for me, at least, like, watching the Galaxy play last night kind of turned me off. It's just like, wow, like, cool. Like, you just act like you're better than everyone. Like, I can see it, like, while you're on the field. That's crazy to me. That's crazy.
I think Zlatan's comment in this case actually was not good for MLS. The expression "any publicity is good publicity." I'm not sure that actually applies here. It's this marketable star, kind of bashing the league that he plays in, and so for Americans who kind of are on the fence about maybe tuning into an MLS game or not, and then they hear this former European star come in and bash the league, that opinion is going to change how how their viewing habits work and how they approach MLS. So I think in this case, Zlatan kind of shot the league in the foot a little bit, but at the same time, I do sort of appreciate the kernel of truth that's in there. So it's kind of a 50-50 for me.
I agree, Joseph. It is nice. It's a breath of fresh air to hear somebody like him be so brutally honest about the game in this country. But in the same sense, though, it's almost like he's kicking the sport and the league right in the groin when he talks about how much the playoff system sucks, or the quality here sucks, or why isn't there promotion relegation? I'm better than Carlos Vela, blah 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 blah. That just the constant mouth diarrhea. And lastly here, quickly, percentage chance that Zlatan Ibrahimovic is a member of the LA Galaxy next season.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I want to go with like 5.
5%?
Yeah, like my first answer was 0, so it's a little bit of an upgrade. I don't see him like coming back.
If I'm spitballing here, I'll say maybe 40%. I don't know. I'm a little bit more optimistic
40?
than Armand. I think.
What?
Well, I mean, listen, they brought in Pavone, so he has someone who's sort of close to his level, at least, that hopefully can play in those crosses to him that he seems to want so badly. I can see it. I don't really know where else he's going to go, frankly. So I'm throwing a dart at the wall here.
I actually agree with Armand. I think it's 10, 15%.
He just looks mad. He looks mad all the time.
I don't think he wants to play here. And if I'm the Galaxy, I don't think you don't need him really. I mean, watch them play is really weird anyways. It's just get the ball to Zlatan, and I just think they could be so much better if he wasn't the main focus. It almost feels like they're just trying to keep him happy. But anyway, let's move on here quickly to the Christian Pavone, I guess, loan to LA Galaxy. The Galaxy obtained a free loan of Christian Pavone from Boca Juniors. Pavone's contract will be partially paid by Boca, and his contract for 2019 will be a TAM contract. In 2020, his contract will be elevated to a DP slot, essentially buying the Galaxy time to figure out their DP situation. After the end of the 2020 season, the Galaxy will have the option to buy Pavone for $20 million from Boca Juniors. Now, Armand, Pavone debuted this weekend for the Galaxy, and why don't you talk about a little bit about his performance?
Yeah, so speaking of Zlatan, he did say Pavone's best player on the pitch, and he had moments of, showing why he was so good, and you could see, like, this is an element the Galaxy needed, right? I've been kind of impressed, by Fabio Alvarez. I'm actually kind of impressed by his play in the middle, and I think adding a guy like Pavone really helps him. A guy who's dynamic on the wing, who's able to take on defenders, and who's actually able to play good crosses that, Zlatan, you don't see Zlatan shaking his head or being angry at or anything. He was dangerous, but it's so difficult to make it a judgment call because it's only been I think less than a week since he joined the Galaxy, and now he's starting and going 90 minutes. I think that's how desperate they wanted him, and obviously the seamless transition into Guillermo Barros Chalau's system after playing with it in Boca, and we saw shades of what he could be, and I like him, but I mean, this is me just overreacting. Obviously, it's an overreacting take right here. Maybe it wasn't a performance to make me realize this player is worth $20 million, but there's obviously a lot more circumstances than what meets the eye, especially with the lack of training, this or that going on. I mean, that's how I feel about it. I don't know if anyone else watched the game, but I sat through 6 games of MLS, so I was one of them.
Yeah, no, I watched the game as well. I thought Pavone, you could clearly see his quality. I mean, playing on the left side of that front attacking three underneath Zlatan, you could see his speed of play was quick. Just the way he even strikes the ball, you can definitely see his quality. So I think Pavone is going to definitely be an upgrade on the wing for the Galaxy. Right now, I don't actually think that's their biggest problem. Zlatan certainly probably thinks that's their biggest problem. But I think the Galaxy's biggest issue is the back line of the midfield's sort of inability to really do anything meaningful with the ball. So once they get Joe Corona, Sebastian Lletget, and Jonah Dos Santos back in midfield together, Pavone on the left and Ibrahimovic up top, now I can potentially see the Galaxy starting to get back into form.
Now, guys, last topic up for discussion here. Mike Petke was fired from Real Salt Lake late Sunday night. RSL is naming assistant coach Freddie Juarez the interim head coach for the remainder of the season. Petke was suspended for 3 Leagues Cup matches and 3 MLS matches following the use of a homophobic slur directed at an official during RSL's Leagues Cup quarterfinal match against Tigres. Under Petke, RSL were 38, 34, and 15 since he took over in 2017. And listeners, this gets us to our question of the day. At UncSam Soccer Pod, how will Mike Petke's firing impact not only Real Salt Lake, but the Western Conference playoff push? And Armand, let's start with you.
First off, I'm not surprised when the news came out of what actually he did, going to the lengths of writing on the slur on the paper and giving it to the referee. You're nuts. You seriously, that's one of the most nuts things I've ever heard. Obviously, hopefully he gets the anger management and the help he needs, because that's a way over the top, especially for a game that, I guess really it doesn't have any intricate value. If you think about it, it's just a Leagues Cup game. It's not like it's MLS Cup or anything like that. But even then, there's no point of that. And I'm not surprised by it. But I mean, from another standpoint, let's say this wasn't the only reason. Let's say from a organizational standpoint, Petke, I don't know if he's getting the most out of those guys. I think someone made a really good point of this on Twitter, saying they needed their own Lucci. Under Freddie Juarez, they've done well. They've done well, and maybe they rally around him for a little interim boost, and hopefully they don't fall into the trap of hiring him based off of the results. They hope they hire him off a base of a plan they have. But it could impact it really well. I mean, if RSL's new coach, he's gone, but I think Juarez isn't going to change much, and they've been getting the results. If they don't make the playoffs, I don't think they can blame it on that. I think they can blame it on just not being good enough for the postseason. But overall, I think the move was almost needed. The reaction was ridiculous. The whole thing was just bizarre, and maybe it was the right time to move on, and this accelerated it. I mean, I wonder if they had missed the playoffs and Petke, didn't have this outburst, if he'd still be there, or to fire him as well. So I mean, it's one of those things, and I mean, we'll see how it goes. But overall, I mean, if they don't make it, I think it's because they're just not good enough. I don't know if a coaching turmoil will be anything to do with it.
Joseph, quickly, is RSL a playoff team?
No. Is that quick enough for you guys?
That's pretty quick.
I don't think RSL has the quality to stick around. I think Portland's gonna jump over them. RSL sitting at 6 on the table right now. I think Portland's gonna leapfrog up, and RSL is gonna be the odd team out.
All right. Well, there you have it. Now let's talk about a couple of games from the weekend here. FC Dallas beats Minnesota United 5-3. Dallas had 4 different goal scorers. Hollingshed, Mascara, Cannon, and Cervania scoring the game winner in the 85th minute. Fun fact for you guys from the game, Paxton Pomykal becomes the second player since 2010 to record 3 or more assists in a single match prior to turning 20 years old. The only other player to do so is Alphonso Davies. Some pretty good company there. Mason Toy was sent off late for spitting at or on Reggie Cannon, depending upon who you believe. The loss snaps Minnesota United's 10-match unbeaten streak across all competitions. Now, Armand, how big of a win was this for FC Dallas?
Oh boy, this was huge for FC Dallas. If that's a word to describe it, it showed this game. You know what? People are like, oh, it's against Minnesota's B team. It's this, it's that. You know what? Forget the excuses. Dallas has struggled against teams that they should be beating. They drew Vancouver both times, home and away, and a win is a win no matter what the circumstance. And this win, it showed grit. You saw Jesus Ferreira make a 70-yard run in the 81st minute to stop a Minnesota United attack. Jesus Ferreira was an attacking mid/forward in that game. That's crazy. You saw Paxton Pomykal take over, finding Michael Barrios for the first Cervania goal, and then taking it on his own. These are games that give you grit. And you know what? After everyone asked them, yo, you guys can't score, what's going on? Yo, you guys can't score, what's going on? They come out and score 5. That's whoever the opponent is. That's fantastic for the team's confidence. And one of my thoughts after that game was, is this a season-changing win? Is this a win that kind of changed the dynamic from, hey, look, we're kind of floundering to, hey, let's go compete for a home playoff game? I think this might be. They really came out with some urgency, some fire. Something's been missing from a team like Dallas. I think Joseph agrees with me on that, at least.
Yeah, I think it was a good performance from Dallas. They showed some actual flashes breaking down Minnesota's deeper block. And I'm not, when it comes to Minnesota, looking at the other side, we're not particularly concerned about them either. It was a pretty heavily rotated side, not to take away from Dallas's win or anything, but they had some different players in there for Minnesota United. I think the Loons will probably get back on track next week. But yeah, Armand, I do agree with you. I think this was a big win for FC Dallas. They showed some grit and some quality play as well in possession.
All right, well, there you have it. Dallas has been revitalized. We're all sick of Zlatan's comments. What an exciting week of MLS. Was better than the Premier League. That's it for today's show. You can follow the show on Twitter at UncSamSoccerPod. You can follow our special guest, Joseph Lowery of The Athletic, at Joe and Cleats, and make sure you give at Rising Tactics a follow as well. You can follow Armand Kafai at Armand Kafai. For Armand, for Joseph, I'm Jake. We'll talk to you guys next time.